Welcome to today's event, the Jolla Programme in the UK, Still Living the Dream, our interview with Kay Laurie. A very warm welcome to you, Kay. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, John, for inviting me.
Oh, it's really lovely to have you here. Thank you. And just to let everybody know, we don't have a video link to Kay today. So although you can see my video, we've got a lovely picture from Kay that we've got on the screen, and hopefully we can hear Kay really well.
I hope so.
And a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us online. Hopefully you can see the chat room. And we really encourage you to use the chat room to add your comments and put your questions to Kay. Okay. So, Kay, maybe I can start with asking whereabouts in the world you're located.
Well, I'm in Norwich, which is in Norfolk, which is in East Anglia, which is the very east of the UK. Not too far from the coast. It's a medieval city. There's a lot of medieval architecture still. And coupled with that, we are almost a city of culture. A lot of cultural events going on in Norwich nowadays. So the city has changed a lot since I moved here.
Yeah, I was in Norwich recently, and there's an amazing cathedral there. Very beautiful.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, and we're just getting a comment in the chat room to say that there's a good curry house there too, so there's a whole range of opportunities.
There's more than one curry house. There's numerous curry houses if you go to the right place.
So lots of good eating there, yeah.
Oh yes, you can find every restaurant you care to think of in Norwich nowadays.
Wow. Well, it's lovely to get a sense of where you are, Kay, because we're making contact with you online. The online events team is up in Scotland, so there's maybe 300 or 400 miles between us, but it's lovely to be in contact like this.
Thank you. I think so too.
So the next question I was going to ask you was to give us a sense of your journey to now, Kay. What's been your journey to this point?
Right, well, I've been thinking about that quite a lot and looking back over how I come to be here. And I was working for a long time in London, for the London Borough of Camden, and working with politicians. And I think I realised that that wasn't really where I wanted to be. And it just so happened that I saw an advert in the New Statesman, which I believe still exists. This was in 1979 for something called the Facilitator Development Institute. And I answered this advert, and I rang the telephone number, and I was answered by Elke Lambers, who I'd never heard of in those days. And she told me what the Facilitator Development Institute was about. Now, I had heard of Carl Rogers, but I'd never been involved in anything like an encounter group before. But I took the plunge, and I went to this workshop, which was a 7-day intensive residential workshop just outside Norwich. And it was, quite a dramatic experience. I suppose it's very difficult to describe. But it had a very profound impact on my life and made me decide that I wanted to get involved more in, human relations activities, I suppose you'd call them. I had always been interested in psychology, and at that time people like Lang were about. I went to a few groups that R.D. Lang was running, and there was a lot of anti-psychiatry about it at that time as well. So I was interested in that sort of thing. And I also attended groups at the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations, which is very different from the person-centered approach, but it was interesting. You know, I gleaned all sorts of ideas from these sorts of experiences. But it was this person-centered workshop which really had an impact on my life in 1979, and I decided that I wanted to get more involved. And at that time, my son was 18, just due to go into the sixth form, and it seemed an ideal time to move. And that's how I came to be in Norwich.
Okay.
I don't know whether you want...
No,
yeah?
well, it'd be interesting to locate the time of that. I guess that was the late 70s for UK, right at the...
That was 1979 when I attended this workshop, the FDI workshop, which was just outside Norwich, in a little village outside Norwich.
Yeah.
And until that time, I'd never visited Norwich before, and was really taken, well, the contrast between London and... at that time, Norwich was very quiet, very much off the beaten track. And I just loved it so much, I decided I wanted to move here. And there were a great deal of person-centered activities going on at the time in Norwich. There was the University of East Anglia and the Norwich Centre for Professional Development was running person-centered courses, which I got involved in.
Yeah.
I could go on and on, John.
Well, I was thinking
Sorry?
in that first group, you would give me a sense of who was there and what the group was connected to. I guess people like Elke Lambers and Brian Thorne. And,
Elke was one of the facilitators, and Brian Thorne and Dave Mearns and Chuck Devonshire. They were facilitators, and it was a group of 60 people, the community group, all different nationalities, which was quite a contrast from any kind of group I'd been in before. It was quite an experience. I find myself sort of stuck for words here because it's very difficult to describe something in a coherent way which has such a dramatic impact on your life, you know?
Yeah, so it had a really big impact on you and drew you into the person-centred approach, I guess. And you did some training in Norwich around...
That's right. Yeah. I got very involved with the university. I became an associate of the student counselling service, and they were running groups at the time for associates. And I trained there, and I ran groups for overseas students. I helped run the Nightline, which I don't know whether this still exists in universities, where students are counselling other students who are having problems. So that was happening at the time.